Hey, how's it going? Happy Monday. I was able to find something probably about 3 weeks ago when I was on one of my thrifting missions. And the sad thing is, I bought something, I was headed out, and as Gina Howard always hates it, it's like I see something, I'm like, I think we need this table. And so this is it. This is a more Asian-inspired chinoiserie style table. A lot of the design, if you go back in art history, it's more of a Ming Dynasty design. And look at the foot. Look how this little claw foot kind of comes around, and the shape of it, it's really beautiful. I love it. I think as far as having different designs of furniture in your home makes it look eclectic, it makes it look collected, and they all have stories to tell. So before I get any further, hello, my name is Amy Howard, and I am the mother maker of Amy Howard at Home. And I love teaching you how to rescue and restore furniture, and to decorate your home doesn't have to cost a fortune. It can look amazing with the right pieces and the right finishes that are married with those pieces. And I think, when I think about Amy Howard at Home and how we're different, I love teaching you. A lot of companies that are out there, they have paint companies, but the owners are not taking the time to teach you why they created something and how to do it. And so that's part of my love, and what I get the pleasure of seeing by teaching you, I get to see you be able to celebrate not only maybe doing it for your own home, but for a lot of you it turns into a hustle, a side hustle, that you can make some additional income, and that makes it even more fun for me. All right, so this is a Ming Dynasty inspired chinoiserie Asian influence table. I got it for $12, and the size of this is perfect to put in between two club chairs, to put in between two occasional chairs, to be able to, if you want to be able to have it outdoors, if you want to be able to have it under a porch, or even in a family room, it's the perfect size to be able to put your reading material. You could even put a small size lamp on it, but I love just having something beside me. Is anybody else like me? I want to have right beside me to be able to put my book that I'm reading and my coffee, especially in the morning when I have in my quiet time. So as you pop on here, say hey, tell me where you're tuning in from. I love being able to see our tribe of people that love rescuing and restoring furniture from all over the country. And because you were kind enough to be able to tune in and to tell me who you are, if you share this video and tag 3 friends, your name goes in for a drawing, because I always give away things. And in this video, I'm going to be doing several videos on teaching you how to redo this table. On this particular video, I'm going to be giving away a container of clean slate, a brush, and a can of the one-step paint in the red that I'm painting with, which I'm working with Charm School. So it allows you to be able to see the color and how I'm going to be incorporating with an oriental finish. So a lot of you may not have taken one of my courses. I'm actually getting ready to launch my Old World Finishing course, Season 5. You'll be hearing more information about that later. But I love teaching you how to create finishes on samples, because a lot of times if you're working on a piece of furniture, you're like working on it as you go, and it's not as great as if you can work on a sample, work out the bugs first, then you know exactly what your step outs are going to be when it's time to be able to come to your piece of furniture. So I wanted to show you the products that I was working with first, and then I want to take you through, and then I'm going to be doing a video and taking you through the process of actually doing this particular piece in each of the steps. That's part of the joy I love in doing these pieces here in the studio each week, so you can learn on actual pieces of furniture. But I personally always start with a sample. So these are the products that we're going to be working with. One is the clean slate. The clean slate, guys, is just in your DIY pantry. You need to have it. One, because it allows you to be able to get the wax and things off of a piece of furniture that you're going to be painting. Cleaners like regular, I don't want to mention some of them, but a lot of the cleaners that you use will not remove wax. And wax acts as a surfactant. It will have it to where it will be a barrier and the paint will not adhere. So clean it with clean slate. It's a great thing. I'll tell you another tip. Clean slate will get lipstick off of sun visor. So all the time when we travel in the car, I pull my sun visor down and put my lipstick on. So all these fingerprints of lipstick and makeup were on a sun visor. The guy that detailed our car could not get it off. So what does Gene Howard do? He's like, I'm gonna try something. So he goes outside and he was able to take all the makeup off and lipstick with a clean slate in our car. So it is a great product to have. A lot of you too, if you wax your floors and you'll get a wax buildup of the trim, it will take the wax buildup that you use on your floors off the trim. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna clean this piece with clean slate. Then the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna be painting one really nice coat with Charm School. Now, different brushes are used for different paints. And I like working with a synthetic brush, not a chip brush. Because when you're working with a synthetic brush, the fibers in the brush are a lot thinner. And that's gonna give you a much prettier finish. Our projects are only as good as the products that we use. Did you get that? Our projects are only as good as the products that we use. So using the right brush, using the right wax, using the right tools are gonna make a big difference. So when you're working with the one step, please use a synthetic brush. All right, so the next product that we're going to be working with, we're going to do an overlay of our one step with our milk paint. So I want to walk you through that process. And I'm going to put this up here for just a minute. Now I want you to look. This is the finish that I created for this table. I wanted something that's really big in more chinoiserie style finishes, especially Ming Dynasty. You'll see a lot of times an influence of red and black. I wanted this muted so much that it could go in pretty much any interior. And so the finish on this is really pretty. Now don't judge it. You'll see some rivets in here from the wood. Well, don't look at that. This is strictly what I'm using as my sample. I will grab anything that I've got on hand to be able to use as a sample. But the finish on this is absolutely yummy. It looks old, it looks vintage. It's got a great patina to it. I love the texture, but I love that I've got a combination of the Charm School and the black milk paint on top. So I want to take you through how to do this. So again, if you were painting a piece of furniture, you would use a synthetic brush and the Charm School one step and put on a coat. Allow it to set up for about an hour and then you're ready for the step. That's pretty straightforward as far as being able to understand how to do it. Now, I painstakingly have my nails done, so what am I going to do? I'm going to wear some gloves. Not that I have to do that from a safety precaution, but I do it just to be able to keep my hands clean. So I'm going to go in and put these on. Now, if you've never worked with the milk paint before, welcome to my amazing world of milk paint. Our pigments all come from Provence. They are not synthetic, they're natural pigments. And it allows you to be able to create a really beautiful finish. Now, on our milk paint, the bags of milk paint that we have, a lot of you'll be like, wait, why is it powder? Why isn't it paint? Why can't I pop a can? Okay, this is a public service announcement. Public service announcement. If you see a milk paint in a can, it is not a true casein natural milk paint. There have been synthetics and things added. The reason I use this in a dry form is because it allows me to be able to get the purest form, to be able to antique it and to get this kind of look that I want to be able to have on my table. If it sits in a shelf in a can, it's like milk. Milk will go bad after a while. This is as close to shopping in the produce aisle as you can imagine. So if you want to be able to get really great looking authentic finishes, guys, you're going to have to work with a powdered milk paint. And I like ours in comparison because other companies use synthetic pigments because they're less expensive. We literally ship in via air all of our pigments from Provence. And so the color, the richness of them makes such a difference when you're actually working on a piece of furniture. So the way that you do this, and if you've never done it, you can look on the back and it will have it all listed out by the steps. You mix the powder milk paint, what you need, the ingredients, just for that project. So, for instance, one bag will cover approximately 18.5 to 19 square feet. So one bag of this milk paint will easily paint this entire table and another one. So it gives you kind of an idea. where when you're working with the one-step paint, this is gonna cover 140 square feet. Now, red is a rule with color. While it's a dark color, red is a lot of times it's more sheer. It's not as opaque. Opaque meaning it has really good coverage. So you might have to do 2 coats of red, just strictly the nature of red, but you won't have any problem as far as, I could paint 4 of these tables, 4 to 5 of these tables with 1 quart of one step. Does that kind of give you some information? All right, so we've painted this. Mixing the milk paint, it is 1 part water to 1 part paint. 1 part water, 1 part paint. It's gonna be good for about 2 weeks. So I usually mix up enough for a project and then I'll throw it away after that. That way keep it in its dry form. So we've mixed this up and it allows you to be able to see the consistency. It's a different consistency too as regular paint. Look how watery it is. And so when you're working with milk paint, you're going to have to make sure that you work on a flat surface. You've got to make sure that it's laying down. So if I'm working on this table, I'm going to work on the top. I'm going to allow it to dry. I hit it with a hairdryer. It's not going to hurt your finish at all. And then I'm going to turn it on its side, and then I'm going to do that side. And then I'm going to turn it again. You've got to work on a flat surface because the paint is so thin. And that's part of the beauty of it and the gorgeous finish that you're going to get. All right, so I'm going to move these out of the way. And when I am putting on my milk paint, I do like working with, let's see if I got this. I've got all these different brushes here. I'm just going to go in and grab this one. I'll load it up. And you do want to paint with long, clean strokes. If you want to put your milk paint in a blender, or an emulsifier, and be able to get it to where it blends really well, you can. Just never paint with foam. All right, so now I like my coverage, and I know you're like, why is she drying paint? Because I want you to be able to see how it's going to change. I'm going to take this brush here. Should have gotten a clean brush before I got on here, and I just want to fan this out just a little bit. All right, so now let's dry. I want you to be able to see how it's going to change in color. When you look at the milk paint, when it's in a dry form, it's one color. Of course, when it gets wet, it goes much darker. But it's going to dry down to the color of the pigment that it is in a dry form. Let's get this cranked up just a little bit more. So now, see how it's drying down to the color? When I come back and I add my wax, it's going to change it. There are no VOCs in milk paint, none whatsoever. So if you want to be, a lot of you know I'm asthmatic. Boom, done. I'm asthmatic, so I have to be able to work with products that have no VOCs. So it's a volatile organic chemical composition, and a lot of the paints that we see out there are emitting all kinds of toxins, but you don't have to worry about that with the milk paint. All right, so the next thing I'm going to use is I'm going to do my antiquing glaze. So part of the reason why I'm going to antique this black is why I want to be able to pull this red out from underneath. I want to pull this red out so that way I'm able to see this. Again, why am I doing it? I'm working with a Ming Dynasty design table, and it was synonymous with having a red and a black finish. And so a lot of times they were very organic looking like this. You see it's somewhat organic looking, which would be very synonymous on what you might see on a beautiful Asian piece. So the next thing I'm going to do, there's no need in sanding it, nothing. I'm just going to be working with my antiquing glaze, and I'm going to be working with just a seaweed sponge. Make sure that you work with the open area of the seaweed sponge. Don't work with the prickly part up here. Make sure it's this open area. And as I'm working with my glaze, I'm always going to have a bath. So I'm going to have my antiquing glaze in one container, and I'm going to have my water in another. You can see I've already been working with it on my sample earlier. So I'm going to load it up, and I'm going to squeeze it out to where it's almost dry. And then I'm gonna do one complete pass over the entire piece like this. Now, one thing I want you to notice that I'm doing is that I am moving it, but I am lifting it up. Look at this. I'm lifting it up the whole time. I'm not dragging it like that. I'm not painting it. I'm not swishing it. It's a pressing down and a lifting up. Now, this is going to change pretty much after I dry it, but let's just check it real quick, because we can. Here's another thing that a lot of people don't realize. You can change this as you're working with it. So let's dry it. You'll start to see it dry down. A lot of times you'll think that you have too much paint that you've taken off, but look how much softer it is. You'll be really surprised. Can we get a close-up? I want them to see. Can you see kind of some of the reticulation that I'm getting from the finish? It's really pretty, very natural. I'm going to dry all of this down. I want all of it gone. It's my inner OCD. Almost got them. Hang with me. All right. So now, here's kind of the nice thing about it is because we're working with water-based paints, they dry very quickly. You can use a heat box, you can use a hair dryer, and it's not going to mess with the integrity of it. Now, if there's different products that I'm working with, I'll tell you, don't let it dry naturally. But when I'm wanting to be able to work on a sample like this, I can speed up the process. And again, why am I working on the sample? Is because I am creating a finish that I want to be able to put on my little $12 Ming Dynasty designed table, which is going to be a great side table. I'm just going to tell you, have you ever looked at the prices of furniture lately? Holy Toledo, it's like crazy. So even more reason why for you to be able to create your own pieces in your home, you don't have to do without. Just go thrifting. And there are a lot of thrift stores online that you can even buy things from to be able to turn around and do finishes on them. All right, so I have antiqued that. And now I'm going to come back and I'm going to wax it. So I'm going to go in and take my light wax. I always have one brush for my light wax, one for my dark. Load it up, but what's the first thing I'm going to do? If you've ever watched my videos, always offload it. And you might go, why are you loading it up and then just taking it off? It's because it allows it to evenly get distributed through my brush. And now I'm going to start at the edge. I'm going to work my way around. Because what you're going to notice is this wax is going to start taking it. Let's do a little bitty section here. Look at this. Look what's happening. Can you see? This, how it's starting to turn darker. The red is starting to pop out more. Look at the difference. Look at the difference between the red, how much more pronounced it is before the wax. It's not so much. So we're going to work our way down. Part of the reason why these lines are kind of appearing are because the wood that I'm working on has these saw marks in it. I'm not going to have that issue on my piece of furniture, but that's okay. I'm overlooking that because I'm going for my finish. The other thing is, I'm very light-handed. Okay, I'm turning it in a cross hatching. All right, so now I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to turn this over so you can kind of see the process and what we're going through and how it's looking. Now, here's the other thing you need to make sure that you do. When you're doing your light wax, we're almost finished, hang with me. Hey, as you pop on here, say, hey, happy Monday, tell me where you're tuning in from. Go back, you need to watch the very beginning of the video, because I'm taking you through why I'm doing this finish sample, what the piece of furniture is that I'm working on this week. You're going to be able to see it go from start to finish. And I'm pleased as punch because I got it for $12. And here's the other thing. It's like, why would you ever tell anybody how much you pay for something? My mom always told me that was really tacky. Like, you never said how much you pay for anything. But there's something about being able, and that's why I literally trademarked enjoy the bragging rights. It's like somebody else like, no. It's like, have you ever done that? It's like, I'll say, I got it for $5. No. Yes. Tell me what you did. So that's why I love taking you through this process. All right, so I want to make sure that your light wax comes to tack before you do your dark wax. If you start putting on dark wax while this light wax is still wet, if it's still greasy, you're just going to have a mess on your hands, because what's going to happen, the dark wax and the light wax are going to start blending, and it's going to create a third color. We don't want that. So I'm going to add just a little bit of dark wax. I'm going to load up my brush. I'm going to offload. Dark wax is not our friend if we put on too much. It can ruin our project. And the first thing I want you to do is I want you to start on the outside. Let's just give a little bit of a darker halo. It's allowing me to kind of see what color it's going to go. And then I'll start working my way in. Again, these lines that you're seeing are not part of my finish. They're part of the piece of wood that I'm working on. Now, last but definitely not least, I'm going to take a little bit of my Dust of Ages, and I'm going to kind of sprinkle it on here, but then I'm going to actually rub it in with my hands. This is the other very important thing. Please do not put on your Dust of Ages until your light wax and your dark wax is almost completely dry. Because if you put on this Dust of Ages before it's almost completely dry, you're just gonna it's gonna go really dark. And so I'm gonna take, this is part of another reason why I have my gloves on. I'm just kind of pressing this into my wax. And now I'm gonna come back with a lint-free rag. And I'm going to start to pull my finish through. Sometimes I'll do a little bit of steel wool, depending on how much color and how much sheen. If I use steel wool, one, it's going to happen a lot faster. I like having control over the finish as I'm working on it, but it'll also give you a much brighter sheen. And instead of taking all this time, I'm going to go in and pull this one out because I want you to be able to see. This is one that I had done. If I hold it up in the light, does that kind of help? So now you know how to do the finish that I'm going to be doing on this piece today. And you'll see the steps and the reason why. And I really want you to get used to, go to Lowe's, go to your favorite hardware store, go to Ace, go to Home Depot, wherever, and get scraps of wood. Maybe you know somebody that's even a woodworker. Just get scraps of wood to be able to work off of, to be able to play and manipulate it. And also, if you're working on a carved piece, work on a carved piece of trim. If you're working on a flat piece, work on a flat piece of trim. That way your finish and what you're doing is gonna get as close to the piece that you're gonna actually be executing on. Now I know I can clean my piece, paint it with my red, do my overglaze of my black, antique it and wax it, and I'm gonna have a gorgeous piece of furniture. So, share this video, tag 3 friends, your name will go in for a drawing that we're gonna be giving away the clean slate, the one-step paint as my base coat, and a beautiful synthetic brush. So all you have to do is share the video, tag 3 friends, your name will go in for a drawing, and we'll be drawing it on Wednesday, and then we're gonna mail it to you absolutely free to the winner. So, I love you guys, stay tuned. We're gonna take you through the whole process of painting this table this week. Mwah. Hey guys, welcome back. Happy Tuesday. Okay, all quiet on the set. This is our working studio, and a lot of times we've got people working on projects all over the studio because we're coming up with finishes and things to be able to to teach you guys how to do. We really think that's one of our differentiators here at Amy Howard at Home. We love really teaching you how to create things. So that way it saves you time that you don't have to go in and try to figure it out. So if you watched the video that we did yesterday, this is my little $12 Asian design inspired table that is really adorable, and it would be great to be able to have it in between a couple of chairs as a drink table. That was my thought process when I actually purchased it. And I love the fact that it was $12 and it's solid wood. This is not a masonite. It's not plastic, it's solid wood. So, I developed a finish that I wanted to be a two-tone effect to be able to do on this little Asian-inspired table, and it needed to start with a red ground. So I painted it with Charm School, which is our one-step paint, and we put 2 coats on it, and then we're ready for the coat on top. So when you're working with milk paint, you've got to make sure that you're working on a flat surface. So I'm getting ready to do my milk paint on top, but I'm not going to be able to apply it vertically. And a lot of you, I've talked about this, I've worked on samples and you're going, I've never seen her do it on a piece of furniture. Now you know. So as you pop on here, say hey, tell me where you're tuning in from. And if you share this video and tag 3 friends, your name will go in for a drawing, and we're going to be giving away the black milk paint and the light and the dark wax that we're working with today. So I always like when you tune in, I always say sharing is caring. And we appreciate your viewership so much from all over the globe that your name will go in for a drawing, and then we'll be drawing this day after tomorrow. We'll announce the lucky winner on this feed. That way you'll be able to know if you won or not, because we love giving this away. So it also is something, you know, when you share videos like this with your friends, it's like, hey, this could be a finish that we could do. Because really, what I want you to learn through the process, as far as our products and the diversity, we don't have just a chalk-based paint. We have nitrocellulose lacquers. We have a water-based enamel. We have our pigments. We have micas, milk paints, a lot of different waxes. There's a lot of versatility to our line because I want you to do a lot of different finishes that add to the texture. And from an interior design standpoint, it looks that much better later. So when you're working on a very simple design like this Asian cocktail table, the finish that you'll do is going to be different, and the execution is going to be different than if you had a really carved piece. So that's, each piece is going to kind of predicate which finish. And my desire as your teacher or your mother maker is to give you a great big repertoire of finishes to be able to pull from and be able to execute. So as you pop on here, say, hey, I love seeing my tribe. And I'm going to walk you through how to be able to take this table to completion today. And I think you're going to be pretty surprised, but it'd be like, I love that. Because while I'm doing this in red and black, which is synonymous with more of an Asian-inspired finish, you could do this in other color values. You could do it in cream and taupe. You could go into doing it in grays, a light and a dark gray. You could. It's going to look totally different depending on what color combo that you want to be able to do it in. So the first thing that we've done is that we've mixed up our milk paint. If you're not familiar with milk paint, it is a casein-based paint. It comes in a powder form like this in our bag, and it's mixed 1-to-1. So 1 part water with 1 part milk paint. Only mix up what you need, and so then it allows you to be able to paint it. And I usually will make my milk paint the day before, depending on what it is that I'm doing. And the reason I make it the day before is because any little particles that maybe didn't completely dissolve, if I make it the same day, they're going to be gone. And so that way, you just need to make sure that you agitate it. The idiosyncrasy of milk paint is the fact that, look, it's very thin, and it will have a tendency, the pigments will soak to the bottom. It will kind of fall to the bottom of the container that you're working in. So you get used to it after a while. As you're working with the milk paint, you just kind of stir it and agitate it with a stir stick or a little plastic spoon like I'm doing. And that way it keeps all the yummy pigment and the color mixed up in your paint as you're painting. But the other thing that you've got to do is you've got to work on a flat surface. It's got to be horizontal. So I'm going to take my table, and with my help of my wonderful assistant, let me move this out of the way, we're going to flip it to where the table is on its side. So we'll have it to where the legs are facing me, okay? All right, so we're just gonna flip it this way. Perfect. All right, so now she's gonna move the camera to be able to come because I want you to be able to see what it is that I'm doing. So, come with me. All right. So now, I'm going to take my milk paint, and now that I've got it on a flat surface, so you just work on one side, then you work on the top, and then as it dries, you can hit it with a hairdryer and just flip it over. It's as easy as that. So, now if I was working on this and you weren't watching me, if I wasn't on camera, I would have it down so I could work over it like this. I normally wouldn't have it up this high, but I wanted you to be able to see what it was that I was doing. All right, so basically I'm just applying the milk paint. This is black milk paint. Again, the base color is Charm School. Let me get my glasses on. I'm agitating it, offload it a little bit where I don't have too many drippies. And then I'm going to go directly on top of my red. You're going to be able to get coverage of one coat. It's not necessary to do more than one. And I want 100% coverage. So here's the nice thing. It's going to start drying fairly quickly. I'm going to hit it with a hairdryer because I want you to see. You see when I mix it in the dark with the water, it goes dark. But then as it dries down, going to go light. It'll dry fairly quickly. And again, if you've not worked with the milk paint before, it has no VOCs. There's no smell. There's no aroma. Nothing that you have to worry about your health. All right, so those of you that were, that you tuned in and watched me yesterday, I was showing you the finish that I had created to go on this little Asian table. So you see, look at the color underneath. Anytime you see a finish, and if it's the smaller amount, the variation here, the red is the smaller amount of the color. Usually that's your color underneath, peeking through. So this gives it a very organic feel. A lot of times if you see like things like Noir or Asian oriented or inspired finishes, they're very organic like this, and you'll see red and black a lot, probably 80% of the time. And so I've covered up Charm School, which was the one step that we did a coat of the Charm School, and I've now layered my black milk paint, Noir milk paint on top of it. So I dried it, and now I'm going to come back in order to be able to pull that red through. I'm going to be using my antiquing glaze and a natural seawall sponge and my water, because basically my water is my bath. So I'm going to load up my natural seawall sponge like this, but when I'm coming back to antique this, be very, very careful not to be pulling. Now, I showed you yesterday how to be able to do this on my sample, but I wanted to show you actually on a piece of furniture. So I'm going to lay this down. I'm literally pressing it in and lifting it up like this, and I'm pulling some of that red out. Now, what you're gonna find surprising is the fact that it looks like a lot of red is showing through. It's not. When you go to dry it down, and I'm going to show you, you're going to see that it's going to be a much softer look. Now, as a rule, I would never stop here. But I'm easily going to be able to go in and fix that. I would go in and do this whole section. So as far as painting this table, antiquing it, waxing it, the whole thing, I could easily do it within 2 hours. So if I do it from start to finish. And the only reason I say that is because if you've taken any of my Old World finishing courses, which will be launching very soon, or if you're in my finishing school, I'm all about teaching you how long something takes, because I want you on average to be able to make a good amount of money when you're flipping furniture. Your time is worth a lot of money. And so I want you to be able to do this and know how long it's going to take. I'm just going to dry this. I want you to see what it looks like. And how much softer it's going to be. Look at that already. See, we don't see the red as much. I always laugh because you're on here and we're watching paint dry. That's literally what we're doing. What we're trying to do is fast as possible. Here's the other thing that you're going to see. Can you come just a little closer? See the reticulation in it? That's going to show up when we go into the waxing process. All right. So now, you want to set it down for just another second, and let's turn over on the top. That way we can show them. Okay, I'm going to put in. Same technique that I just showed you, we did on the top. So you see how it's kind of reticulated, and I'm wondering, I may even, let me come around here. Let me move this around because I want to be able to have a little bit more control over it. Let's put this down on the floor. Are you with me? All right. All right, so I'm going to be working, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be working with my light antique wax. I'm going to load my brush up. Now what you're going to notice is that the red is going to start to pop out more as I start to wax it. So watch this. Now I'm going to do this more in a cross hatching. I'm turning my wrist each time like this. Let's see, I got another side. Let me turn it. Here we go. Can you see that good? That might be a little bit easier for them. All right, so let's load up our wax. Look at that. See how that changes it almost instantly? What it does, it will seal your paint, but it also, look at that. Look at the transition from no wax to the wax. And this is light wax. See how it looks dark? But I'm using the light antique wax. Let's load it up again. The reason I do it in cross hatching is because I don't want you to be able to see really the size of my tool or what it is. I'm going to come down in this crevice. See how much darker it got? And that's not going to dry. The wax isn't going to dry down and change. Guys, as you pop on here, say hey. Tell me where you're tuning in from. Be sure and share this video and tag 3 friends because your name is going in for a drawing, and I'm going to be giving away the milk paint and the waxes that I'm working with today. All right, so now I'm going to come back with my dark wax. I'll load this up. Offload it. And I'm gonna kind of play with it because when I'm doing my dark wax, I like starting on the edges and then I'll fold it into the center. Now, last but definitely not least, I'm going to come back with my Dust of Ages. Make sure that your wax gets to attack. Don't put this on too soon. and I'm saturating it because I want it to get down into my wax. Then I'm going to come back with a rag, and I'm going to start rubbing it into my wax because this is actually part of the finish. Now, you know, a lot of times I'll take my hands and I'll just kind of rub it in. If I had gloves on, I would do that. Now I want to turn this around, and I want to be able to show you an area that we had done. Let me put this up here. So that way, let's pull it out where you can kind of see it. So now, the finish is going to allow you to be able to have the details that would be on an Asian-inspired piece of furniture. I can come back in and add some more paint on top of it where it can be softer. And right now the light is kind of harsh on this and it's making it look a little bit, which in reality, when you get finished with your whole piece, it has a beautiful texture to it, much like the sample. I'll be coming back, I'm gonna make it a little bit darker, so it's gonna be a beautiful Asian-inspired finish that is gonna look great on this little table. So I'm gonna continue to work on the top and put my wax on it, and then I'll come back and I'll do a reveal so you can see the whole thing finished. Okay, I wanna show you something. Let me turn this around. So here's our little table. I wanted you to see the finish on it. I put a couple of little gold finials on there, and I put it on a oriental because I wanted you to be able to see. A lot of times when I'm working on my work table, you can't really see the finishes and things that well. So in reality, if you were gonna place this on something, it's gonna probably be on an oriental rug, and it allows you to be able to just kind of see the coloring better and the finish on it. And I wished it was where, with the lighting in here, that you could see it just a little bit better. But it's such a fun, easy finish to create. And if you go and study some of the oriental lacquer finishes that I'll see in a lot of antique shops, the feeling and the texture of this looks so much like what you'll see. So if you're seeing this and you want to know how I created it, go back and watch, and I'll show you. It's a very simple process. And it's basically a combination of working with the Charm School, which was first. That was our red, which is in here. It's very subtle. And then you go back and we put the black milk paint on top of it. And part of the color, your question is, does it go white? No, you know what this is. If you look at it, go back. The Charm School was first. We did the black milk paint on top. And so then when I did my light wax and my dark wax, after it came to tack, I put on my Dust of Ages. And so what happens, the Dust of Ages gets down into the wax and the Noir milk paint, and it creates this beautiful, very authentic looking finish. If I come up like that, see how pretty that is against that oriental rug? So it's very nice and subtle. It's a beautiful little side table, and who would have thought that I would able to have gotten it for $12. So now it's going to add a lot of texture to the room. I've put it beside one of my consoles that is done in a cracked patina finish. And so that way they go really well together. They're very complementary.